239 suns had set since she last stepped onto a professional court. Yet the moment Caitlin Clark finally laced up her sneakers and hit the hardwood, she entirely bypassed taking aim at the hoop. Instead, she completely orchestrated the offense, dishing out a flawless trio of dimes, the very first 3 times the rock grazed her fingertips. Without missing a beat, the legendary point guard marched right into a high-stakes FIBA qualifying match and unleashed a performance so wildly unprecedented, panicked analysts found themselves scrambling through decades of dusty international archives to comprehend the sheer magnitude of the spectacle. A staggering 5 separate historical milestones shattered. She absolutely obliterated a handful of FIBA global benchmarks in less than 20 ticks of the game clock, marking an unforgettable entrance into the senior national squad. With heavy hitters like Paige Buchers and Angel Reese riding shotgun, the American juggernaut systematically dismantled Senegal, cruising to a jaw-dropping 64-point margin of victory. Today, we are breaking down every single one of those 5 shattered benchmarks, analyzing head coach Kara Lawson's post-game reaction, and predicting how this seismic shift will dictate their upcoming showdowns. Should this triumphant hardwood comeback send shivers down your spine, smash that comment section below and shout, "Welcome home, CC, the ultimate history maker." The United States introduces a fresh 5-woman lineup to the fray. And judging by the absolute roar echoing through this arena, a certain phenomenon is finally clocking her inaugural minute for the top-tier American roster. The stadium is practically pulsating with her die-hard supporters. The bleachers are an ocean of handcrafted posters. Threads from Indiana and Iowa pepper the stands, all gathering to worship one of the most culturally dominant athletes to ever grace the women's game. Watching her take her initial reps tonight is fascinating, especially considering how stiff and hesitant your average hooper usually looks after an agonizing 8-month hiatus. Normally, returners tiptoe around the paint, tentatively testing their stamina and desperately searching for their lost rhythm. That begs the million-dollar question. What exactly was running through her mind as she waltzed into this international gauntlet, carrying the crushing weight of being the squad's undisputed poster child? Her pre-game mantra was chillingly calm. I honestly expected the nerves to hit me hard, but pure adrenaline took over instead. End of story. She radiated nothing but pure, unadulterated swagger. We really need to unpack the grim reality hidden inside that grueling 239-day absence. A devastating physical setback completely hijacked her 2025 professional campaign right out of the gates, sentencing her to an endless purgatory of clinical rehab rooms, lonely gym sessions, and absolute isolation from real competition. Concurrently, the Global Basketball Federation and their television affiliates shamelessly plastered her likeness across every conceivable billboard and commercial break. From tournament hype reels to digital banners, she was the ultimate cash cow, creating an immensely suffocating burden to bear. Now, we cut to the action. 60 seconds and change remaining in the opening quarter. The ball swings from Millings over to the perimeter maestro. She pulls the trigger on her inaugural deep ball, and it hits nothing but nylon. The drought is officially broken with that spectacular opening splash, proving she remained completely unfazed by the blinding media spotlight beforehand. Behind closed doors, she acknowledged the relentless grind leading up to this exact evening, admitting she anticipated a chaotic cocktail of adrenaline and butterflies, though strictly the positive kind. The superstar freely admitted that tearing the Band-Aid off during the inaugural match always presents the steepest mountain to climb. However, she noted that finding your stride eventually smooths out the chaotic edges, illustrating a raw honesty about the immense heat without ever allowing it to burn her alive. Let us run back the tape on that breathtaking, perfectly timed sniper shot. She flawlessly navigates the pick, secures the seamless exchange, and absolute chaos ensues. The rock genuinely pinballed around every single millimeter of iron before finally granting us the sweet release of a made basket. Tension was practically slicing through the stadium air long before tip-off, primarily because this historical evening was far larger than just one iconic player's grand entrance. An unprecedented half-dozen prodigies were all simultaneously experiencing their rookie baptism under the brightest lights of the adult national stage. Heavyweights ranging from Paige Buchers and Angel Reese to Kiki Iriafen were universally tasting the elite intensity of this global tier for the very first occasion. Consequently, an electric, almost intoxicating rookie fever infected the entire locker room. Floating right at the eye of that storm stood our generational phenom, simultaneously carrying the absurd burden of being the undisputed face of the global marketing campaign. Asked about the emotions of donning the premier jersey, "Man, it is destined to be purely magical," she beamed. "You spend your entire childhood glued to the television, absorbing these exact moments, having idolized the absolute legends of the sport for years. Crossing those lines tonight will genuinely feel like a lucid fantasy. It is the ultimate climax of a lifelong pursuit. Furthermore, stepping up from grinding through a trio of youth-level international squads genuinely puts everything into perspective. A microscopic fraction of hoopers ever successfully bridge that terrifying gap to the major leagues, leaving me drowning in profound gratitude. It is entirely otherworldly. Merely draping the stars and stripes across my back earlier completely stripped the words from my lungs. The adrenaline rush of defending our nation's honor alongside these absolute warriors is unmatched. The divine favor resting on my life right now is undeniable. Those initial seconds under the arena lights will purely be an exercise in counting my blessings. Yet, the most fascinating narrative lies in how the phenom internally mapped out her operational boundaries. She bluntly admitted, "This theater operates on entirely different rules. Showing up and expecting to selfishly command the entire spotlight is simply not an option. The American powerhouse system actively rejects that brand of hero ball." Honestly, those are not the words of an arrogant maverick screaming, "The Queen has returned. Clear the lane and witness my greatness." No, that was a calculated assassin who heavily studied the defensive tape and arrived armed with a ruthless, team-first blueprint. Therefore, the pressing mystery looming over the pregame huddle was absolutely never about her fundamental ability to sink baskets. The actual conundrum revolved around her capacity to survive breakneck speeds and lethal defensive traps, completely cold off an 8-month layoff, all while restricted to a measly 19 minutes or fewer of action. Ultimately, when the final buzzer sounded and the dust of her historical rampage settled, the prodigy offered a remarkably grounded reflection. "Above all the madness and the milestones, my heart is just full because I am drenched in perspiration and I was finally allowed to compete in the game I love again." She noted that the rhythm of the matchup clicked for her almost instantly, particularly after watching that initial three-pointer splash through the net. Securing the victory felt incredibly sweet. This entire narrative becomes fiercely debated once you scrutinize Coach Kara Lawson's opening roster choices, simply because her biggest attraction was shockingly left on the bench. Now, factoring in the astonishing 5 separate records shattered by the young phenom, it genuinely appears that the head coach is swallowing a massive slice of humble pie. The International Basketball Federation and the National Committee plastered her image across every single promotional banner leading up to the tournament. Yet, astonishingly, Kara Lawson benched her poster child the moment the opening whistle blew. We need to dissect this move, as it was anything but a mere accident. Putting Chelsea Gray at the helm initially seems completely logical. She is a battle-hardened, title-winning general who thrives when orchestrating plays in high-stakes environments. The reasoning is incredibly transparent. However, the plot thickens drastically from this exact moment. Senegal unleashed a ferocious end-to-end defensive storm, absolutely rattling the first string. The veteran floor general was dramatically yanked from her playmaking duties in a mere 35 seconds. Exactly 35 agonizing seconds. De'Erica Hamby, alongside Angel Reese, had to desperately scramble and bring the ball up the hardwood simply to survive the suffocating traps. The opening squad was entirely paralyzed. Glance at the ultimate playmaking statistics from the matchup. The American squad finished with a staggering 30 dimes. As previously highlighted, an unbelievable 12 of those were sparked by the rookie phenom. Critics constantly label the veteran as the true maestro and dismiss the rookie as merely a sharpshooter. But they completely flipped the script in this battle. The moment the sensational rookie stepped onto the hardwood, magic ensued. 3 consecutive trips down the floor yielded 3 flawless dimes. We are not talking about 3 dimes spread across an entire period, but 3 pinpoint passes on her earliest touches. The entire tempo of the battlefield transformed in the blink of an eye. Such monumental energy shifts are practically impossible to quantify perfectly on a standard box score. Every single player on the roster absorbs that electric atmosphere instantly. She whips it toward Plum, who seamlessly tosses it right into her pocket again. Using a brilliant screen, the rookie threads a magnificent needle straight to Monique Billings, who easily cashes in her maiden basket of the night. The stark contrast between how the young phenom dismantled Senegal's suffocating traps versus the starting squad's utter panic was absolutely staggering. That specific defensive terror is meticulously designed to spawn absolute mayhem in the backcourt, forcing ball handlers into terrified mistakes and brutal giveaways. Yet, our hero transformed those exact same terrifying traps into explosive transition runs. She dissected their strategy before they even crossed the half-court line, accelerating the tempo and feeding her squad flawlessly. While the opening five were barely clinging to life against the pressure, the prodigy was actively turning their own tactic into a lethal weapon against them. I engaged in deeply personal, solitary discussions with every single athlete on the roster. It wasn't strictly right before the opening tip, but consistently throughout the past 48 hours, I explicitly handed her the keys to the offense. When discussing our star rookie, it is glaringly obvious that she injects an incredibly explosive and fluid energy directly into our scoring attacks. That is essentially an undeniable fact. Beyond her absolutely lethal ability to sink incredible shots, she firmly stands as one of the most brilliant and creative floor generals on the entire globe. The telepathic chemistry brewing between the rookie maestro and Ryan Howard emerged as an absolutely unstoppable force of nature. Howard ultimately secured a spectacular 21 points to lead the squad, with a massive portion originating from those genius offensive dissections. Every time the defense swarmed the ball, Howard was wide open, splashing deep triples. Consequently, Senegal faced a brutal dilemma. Do they continue their aggressive swarming and bleed points from beyond the arc, or retreat entirely and surrender the court to the rookie's imagination? That exact, soul-crushing dilemma was something the initial 5 players completely failed to manifest throughout their entire grueling stint. Honestly, I truly believe the young star's unparalleled vision and passing execution served as the ultimate catalyst that sparked our blazing inferno. We absolutely found our devastating groove during that pivotal second frame, proceeding to hang a mountain of points on the scoreboard. Envision this absolute madness. The very face plastered across all the event billboards is entering the battlefield late, utterly embarrassing the designated first stringers by a colossal margin. Meanwhile, the head coach steps up to the post-game microphones and desperately claims her roster configurations are simply locked in a trial-and-error phase. No leader ever utters those specific, defensive words when they feel genuinely confident and secure about their initial strategic blueprint. The commander went on to praise her prodigy's visionary passing for igniting their momentum, labeling her as an explosively creative force and undeniably one of the planet's elite offensive architects. Those are absolutely not the kinds of compliments you hand down to a simple rotational backup. We recently discussed how she is adapting to weaponize the sheer firepower around her, as this is undeniably the most stacked roster she has ever been a part of. Just try to fathom possessing such visionary talent, only to suddenly find yourself surrounded by equally explosive creators and cold-blooded executioners on every single wing. Therefore, I observed her masterfully balancing her role, shifting seamlessly between threading the needle and hunting for her own devastating shots all evening, looking completely at home in the chaos. Honestly, watching her command the hardwood brought me immense pride. The coach heavily highlighted that explosive second-period combination starring the rookie alongside Howard, Plum, Ariafen, and Billings, directly crediting that specific squad for violently elevating their entire competitive standard. The veteran point guard was noticeably absent from that lethal rotation, yet arguing over the first 5 becomes irrelevant when witnessing the absolute psychological warfare the rookie unleashed upon Senegal's defense. It completely altered the timeline of the matchup. While the hardwood was catching fire with blinding fast breaks and highlight reel passes, and the absolute shellacking ensued. The official record keepers were frantically digging through decades of international archives, desperately attempting to contextualize the historical masterclass they had just witnessed. Once the final buzzer sounded, the statisticians began crunching the data. What emerged from those box scores was so utterly mind-bending that they had to verify it multiple times just to believe their own eyes. 5 athletes swapping out simultaneously. A pure hockey-style rotation. Total line changes. Kelsey Plum secures her initial bucket, while the phenomenon pushes the tempo toward Billings. Billings banks it gracefully off the window from the left wing. Just how terrifying is the American squad? The rookie played 19 substitute minutes. During that brief 19-minute window, she masterfully distributed 12 dimes, all against a defensive scheme engineered strictly to force chaos and steal the basketball. Yet, throughout the entire opening 2 quarters, she never surrendered possession, not a single time. Before diving into the history books, let that absolute perfection sink in. 12 helpers, 19 minutes, 0 opening half giveaways, all accomplished as a substitute in her inaugural matchup in 239 days. Brace yourself, because these are not your typical garbage time statistics. These milestones transcend gender, cross every global border, and rewrite the absolute entirety of international qualifying history from the ground up. Pure, elite-tier hoops. The sniper dishes it back to the maestro, who instantly threads the needle inside for a gorgeous kiss off the glass. Spectacular vision. Milestone number 1. The absolute highest volume of dimes ever dropped by a rookie in an American senior jersey, male or female. That monumental 12-assist performance stands alone as the ultimate peak for any athlete debuting on the international stage for the United States. Every legendary name, across every generation, man or woman, completely erased. Milestone number 2. The greatest passing debut for a senior national team anywhere on the planet, across all genders. This achievement shatters American borders entirely. Her staggering playmaking numbers mark the undisputed pinnacle for a first-timer suiting up for any nation in the history of global qualifying hoops. Every sovereign state, every inaugural performance in history. The crown is now entirely hers. The phenomenon commands the offense once more, already boasting 8 tallies on the scoreboard. For a split second, she contemplates a triple, but selflessly feeds her sharpshooter, who drills the deep ball for her second splash tonight. Navigating a heavy screen, the ball swings back to the maestro. A lightning-fast, behind-the-back shift freezes the defender, setting up another magnificent long-range bomb. The crowd erupts into pure chaos. We predicted it. This telepathic rhythm between the phenomenal playmaker and her sniper is a mesmerizing masterpiece. Milestone number 3. The second highest volume of setups in global qualifying tournament history. We are officially past rookie achievements now. We are analyzing the entire pantheon of qualifying battles throughout time. Those 12 spectacular passes claim the silver medal against every performance ever logged on a stat sheet. One singular contest, 19 brief minutes, the second greatest mark globally. Which brings us to milestone number 4. The undisputed crown for passing dimes by a reserve in international history, male or female. And the sheer gravity here is that she was not even in the starting 5. Rising from a substitute role, she cemented the ultimate global high-water mark for non-starter playmaking, the absolute bench standard, regardless of gender. Now, milestone number 5. 8 masterful feeds before intermission without a single mistake. It stands as the absolute highest setup total ever witnessed in any qualifying half. She orchestrated 8 flawless scoring opportunities before the break, completely refusing to surrender possession to the enemy. Those 2 quarters alone etched a new international benchmark. Searching for an open teammate, she curls off a pick and delivers a dime inside. A devastating up-and-under move. An absolutely lethal finish in the paint, made possible entirely by the visionary orchestration of the young maestro. Hold on. The story gets wilder. We have to dissect exactly why that 0 turnover column elevates everything into the realm of the impossible. Racking up astronomical playmaking numbers inherently flirts with disaster. You constantly accelerate the tempo and gamble on razor-thin passing windows. Dictating a chaotic, hyper-speed battleground naturally breeds blunders. Yet she commanded that blistering whirlwind without coughing up a single possession before halftime. We are no longer talking about mere efficiency. We are witnessing otherworldly mastery of the hardwood. Keep in mind, this masterpiece unfolded in her return to action following a 239-day hiatus. No gentle warm-up, a trial by fire against a swarming defense. 8 months removed. The Senegalese defensive strategy is brutally designed to mentally break ball handlers. They swarm you immediately, suffocating the rock to provoke catastrophic errors. But she relentlessly pinpointed the unguarded shooter before their trap doors could even snap shut. rolling out a complete 5-for-5 platoon swap. Danila, what kind of terrifying roster depth are we witnessing when a generational talent emerges from reserves, effortlessly launching a monumental bomb from the parking lot? Although, honestly, pulling the trigger from another zip code is basically a routine layup for her. Those hesitation retreats and slick behind-the-back feeds were never about showing off for the highlight reels. She unleashed that arsenal out of pure, lethal necessity. Whenever they threw two defenders her way, her mind was already calculating the perfect escape angle. There stood her sharpshooter, camped beyond the arc, completely unguarded, possession after possession. Basketball scholars analyzing the bloodbath concluded that the opposition was hopelessly outmatched whenever she stepped onto the hardwood. And frankly, that is putting it mildly. She transformed their relentless, suffocating pressure into her own personal transition offense machine, leaving them completely paralyzed and unable to counter. The sniper ultimately torched them for 21 tallies, sinking 6 daggers from downtown. Broadcasters bluntly pointed out that virtually every deep strike was hand-delivered by the maestro herself. Whenever the opposing defense unleashed a heavy blitz, they practically gift-wrapped yet another wide-open three-pointer for Howard. You can hardly call that guarding. It was absolute charity. The key was staying entirely calm until the perfect look materialized. The rising point guard zips the rock toward Buchers, who launches from beyond the arc. But the attempt comes up completely empty. The onslaught did not stop there, as the star guard dropped 17 points of her own, burying 4 out of 5 attempts from deep and shooting a flawless 5-for-5 at the charity stripe. Reports even indicated her true shooting metric hit a staggering 118%, coupled with an astronomical positive 35 floor impact. Enduring merely a single misfire throughout the whole matchup, she masterfully orchestrated the offense while pouring in buckets at a terrifying rate, all during just 19 minutes as a reserve. Meanwhile, Monique Billings operated completely under the radar, yet her impact proved absolutely lethal. Snagging 10 points alongside 5 boards, she embraced the gritty paint battles while her backcourt teammates soaked up all the spotlight out on the wing. Moving with sheer grace and unmatched adaptability, Buchers transformed what should have been a nerve-wracking first appearance for the senior squad into a walk in the park. Then you witness Reese shattering her primary matchup before perfectly spotting an open teammate, sparking a lightning-fast sequence from the perimeter straight into the hands of Billings. Despite holding the ultimate collegiate scoring crown, that legendary shooter secretly functions as a playmaking savant, while a relentless crash on the offensive glass grants the Americans fresh life. Capitalizing fiercely on the second opportunity, Reese converts the bucket, cementing dime number 9 for the sensational Iowa alum. Yielding merely a lone errant attempt all evening, the dynamic forward also ripped down 8 rebounds. Pause and genuinely digest that reality, a single solitary miss. Stepping onto the international stage, she delivered a virtually impeccable performance, executing a demanding assignment that required unrelenting mental focus from tip-off to the final buzzer. Laying bone-crushing picks, sealing off opponents in the paint, and threading the needle rather than hunting for personal glory, she executed every gritty detail with breathtaking precision. Absolutely. We need to witness that replay again, watching that unstoppable drive right to the rim, contrasting against a visiting squad whose primary offensive weapon carried their entire first-half load. Currently sitting on 5 points alongside 3 crippling penalties, her upcoming minutes will undeniably be a highly anticipated storyline. Operating with that kind of foul trouble entirely eliminates the ferocious physicality we saw from the American frontcourt, setting the stage for a dramatic shift. Imagine half a dozen fresh faces stepping onto the grandest international hardwood for the very first time, all completely simultaneously. Yet, rather than collapsing into chaotic or nervous energy, the entire unit operated like a violently fast, brutally efficient machine designed specifically to generate flawless offensive looks. The head coach relentlessly preached about maintaining relentless speed, utilizing the entire bench, and sharing the rock as their core philosophy, turning this matchup into an undeniable masterclass of that exact vision. The devastation culminated in a truly jaw-dropping 110-46 final tally. Suffocating ball pressure instantly transformed opposing mistakes into lightning-fast transition buckets, completely paralyzing structured offense and refusing to show mercy despite the astronomical advantage, all while integrating 6 brand-new athletes at the highest level. delivering a brutal 64-point absolute dismantling while shattering 5 global tournament records. The mastermind on the sidelines casually admitted her primary rotation remains entirely undecided. Where exactly does this terrifying momentum lead us next? Watch as the dynamic star navigates the deep block before firing a bullet pass out to the perimeter. The legendary distance shooter releases the trigger, and the ball splashes cleanly through the bottom of the nylon. Despite having their global tournament ticket already firmly punched, they continue sharpening their lethal weapons, violently refusing to ease up on either side of the hardwood as the offensive maestro dictates the tempo. We absolutely must address the earth-shattering wave of incoming talent, because this paradigm shift is happening right before our very eyes. Unleashing Buchers, Reese, and Clark simultaneously onto the international stage severely transcends a mere heartwarming narrative. Management is calculating every single move with the 2028 games in mind, engineering an apocalyptic squad capable of shape-shifting through diverse rotations, manipulating the tempo at will, and easily surviving a cold shooting night from any superstar. Crafting that exact breed of unbreakable depth requires architectural genius, and this particular slaughter served as the absolute premier showcase of that grand design, coming to life in terrifying real-time action. Critics will inevitably raise a completely valid counter-argument. However, sweeping aside, the Senegalese roster is miles away from warring against a powerhouse like the French. Securing a staggering 64-point victory creates breathtaking viral moments. Yet skeptics wonder if it genuinely forecasts their survival against legitimately dangerous global adversaries. Doubting their true strength makes total sense right now, though the underlying reality reveals a much more fascinating truth. The massacre we just witnessed had absolutely zero to do with who stood on the opposing baseline. It served as a terrifying preview of an offensive juggernaut operating at maximum velocity under the command of their newest floor general. Their maximum potential shatters all previous boundaries, completely redefined by blinding transitional speed and telepathic court vision. Watching role players repeatedly gifted with wide-open, high-percentage looks proves the offensive machinery itself is elite, entirely independent of the defensive resistance, which is exactly the golden nugget supporters back in the Midwest are clinging to. The upcoming 2026 professional campaign represents the very next opportunity to witness that fully unleashed, hyper-lethal iteration of the Star Guard, dominating night after night. Even her professional franchise's social media handlers could not contain their excitement, instantly broadcasting her jaw-dropping double-double statistical masterpiece as she conquered the global stage. Ultimately, drawing a straight line from her international dominance to an explosive impending season in Indianapolis is undeniably logical, with sports media aggressively fueling that exact hype train, without the slightest hesitation. Visualize the impending landscape for the national program. Their fearless leader faces a monumental choice regarding her primary five. Yet, if you decode every single word dropped in her post-match presser, the brilliant tactician has undoubtedly already carved her master plan into stone. Clark is clearly seizing control of the starting five, leaving Gray to serve as a wise, steadying anchor waiting in the wings. Every single clue from that performance screams this is the new reality. Coach Lawson flat out admitted their second-period squad morphed into an absolute juggernaut the moment Clark stepped in. Trust me, that shift in power was entirely by design. Following 239 grueling days off the hardwood, nobody was actually doubting if she still had game. The real suspense was discovering what kind of monster she had evolved into during the shadows. The verdict? She returned as an unstoppable phenomenon, shattering 5 FIA global milestones in less than 20 minutes, all while miraculously elevating the talent of every teammate sharing the floor. Beckers has been waiting. Reese is primed for battle. Ian is locked and loaded. Yet Clark just put the entire basketball universe on notice, proving how blindingly fast the game becomes with her at the throttle. Man, putting on this jersey and securing the victory is an absolute privilege. My heart is incredibly full right now. Honestly, having the power to carry the spirit of the women's game and showcase it across the globe means absolutely everything to me. The adrenaline is definitely rushing. It is a massive privilege to represent the United States, especially knowing the absolute legends who have laced up and battled in these exact same colors before me. My ultimate mission now is to walk the path those icons paved and fiercely protect the immense legacy of what female athletes represent on the court. I am just overwhelmed with deep thankfulness, reflecting on every agonizing sacrifice and ounce of sweat it required to finally reach this monumental stage. Ever since I was a little kid, having those 3 letters draped across my heart was the ultimate holy grail. Right now, my veins are pumping with pure hype and just a touch of nerves. And beyond blessed, truly. Goodness gracious. It feels like a total dream. The thrill is so massive that I cannot even string the right words together. I am standing at the edge, practically buzzing to discover what the raw energy out there will actually feel like. 239 days of waiting, 5 FIA history book entries shattered, a brutal 64-point demolition, and Coach Lawson is already reshuffling the deck. The star point guard called her own shot, stating she had been grinding for this moment forever. The proof was blindingly obvious. This was not a mere comeback. She resurrected as the most lethal floor general the global women's game has to offer today. And if this absolute masterclass is merely a teaser for the United States squad's qualifying run, not to mention the Indiana Fever's 2026 campaign, the entire basketball landscape is about to become dangerously electrifying. If your adrenaline is spiking over her monumental return to the hardwood, flood the comments with "Welcome back CC Record Breaker" right now. Smash that thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a single second of the madness. Tap the video popping up on your screen right now, and we will catch you in the next one.